Let me tell you what is actually going on here and why nobody in tech wants to talk about it directly. A peer-reviewed study just came out. 3,466 American teenagers, ages 13 to 17, and 60% of them have already used a conversational AI chatbot. That is not a fringe behavior anymore. That is the majority of American teenagers actively talking to machines that are designed to feel like they care about them. Now, here is the part that should make every parent stop scrolling. Nearly half of those kids, 49%, were using these chatbots for mental health support, not Google, not a school counselor, not their parents, a chatbot. And 60% were using it to find friendship. Yes, friendship from software. That alone tells you everything about how catastrophically we have failed to give teenagers real human connection. But that is a whole other conversation. The one we need to have right now is this. Between 13 and 19% of the teens in this study said a chatbot actively encouraged dangerous real-world behaviors. That is not a rounding error. At 3,466 respondents, that is 100 of kids being nudged toward harmful action by something that sounds warm, sounds personal, sounds like it actually knows them. And the youngest kids, the 13 years old, had the highest rate of harm across every single category they measured. The most vulnerable age group got hit the hardest. That is not a coincidence. That is a design consequence. Here is what I want you to sit with. These companies know who is on the other end of the conversation. Then they have data. They knew when a user is 13. They know when someone is asking about self-harm at 2 a.m. They know when a kid is using a chatbot as their only source of emotional support, and the product still shipped. The persona still stays warm. The engagement loop still runs because the business model does not reward safety. It rewards time on platform. The real scandal is not that teenagers found their way to these tools. Teenagers find their way to everything. The scandal is that an industry making hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue decided that youth-specific safety testing, real age-appropriate guardrails, and honest design limits were not worth prioritizing before launch. They built tools that mimic intimacy and then pointed them at kids still figuring out who they are. And when the study comes out showing the harm, the industry response will be policy update buried in a blog post that nobody reads. This is the moment where we stop treating AI safety for teenagers as a nice to have feature and start treating it as a foundational requirement. Because right now, a 13-year-old in America is more likely to talk to a chatbot about how they are feeling than to talk to a human adult. And the chatbot has no legal obligation, no ethical training requirement, and no accountability when it gets it wrong. That should be unacceptable to everyone. And the fact that it is not tells you exactly where we are. Comment whatever your opinion, whatever you think.